Okay.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Food Safety with Jill and Tia. And as you can see, oops, wrong side. Over here, we have a special guest today. I know, whichever side. It's not that I'm dancing because you don't want to see that, believe me. Oh, goodness. Oh, well, all right. Sorry, I just had a message pop up that I've never seen before. So,
Uh-oh.
you
Okay.
know, I don't know what that all means, but here we are. We are thrilled to be here. And we are happy that you're able to join us as well to our audience. So if you've been here before, you know the drill. If you wouldn't mind dropping in a comment where you're located and even what the weather's like. I keep hearing, and I know the weather's kind of a common thing to talk about, but here in Minnesota, today I woke up and it was 21 degrees out yet.
Mm,
Annie, and you said it's warmer by you, isn't it?
not by much.
Oh,
No, it's been in the 30s at night where we are in
and
Pennsylvania.
I'm
Hmm.
really cultivating being grateful for the cooler weather right now, knowing that when it's 90, I'm going to be grateful then.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't mind dropping in, if you're here for, hashtag live, or if you're here for hashtag replay, we'd love to circle back and go into the comments and make sure we respond. So please let us know where you're going or what it's like today. So if it is your first time here, normally we would have Tia here as well, but she had a baby. And
Yay.
so, yeah, we are so excited for her and Theo and baby Tiana. And she'll be back soon. But in the meantime, we have Annie here with us today. And we are so excited because Annie is part of our 4-week series about early technical leadership in food safety. And I can't wait to hear the insights and the wisdom, Annie, that you bring from all of your experience.
I'm going to share some of my failures too.
Well, hey, we've all had
Hey, yeah, yeah.
them. So the reality is if we don't talk about them, then we know it's not real.
That's right. I'm bringing my authentic self. Yes.
That is awesome. So if as we look at this, Annie's going to talk a lot about this transition from individual contributor to manager in technical fields. And so as you're joining, if you've got a question or something to share, once again, drop it in the comments because we're going to be reading those as we go forward too. So I think we should just dive in, don't you, Annie?
Great. Yeah. Let's do it.
Because we are so happy you're here. So welcome, the official welcome. And for people who don't know you, Annie, would you mind telling us a little bit about you know, who you are and how you got into food and kind of where you're at today? I know that's
Yeah,
pretty stacked questions there, but
exactly.
I'm doing it.
All right, good. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this. I've never done anything like this before, and so this is a big thrill for me. So thanks for hosting. For those that don't know me, I'm Annie Ellerman. I've worked for almost 20 years in the food industry. And I graduated from Ohio State with a degree in food science and technology. For most of my career, I've worked in manufacturing, and so I have a real love for manufacturing. I remember when I was very young, and I watched Sesame Street, and they showed video from the Crayola factory. I remember thinking that's the place I want to be. Like I
I love
really
it.
love. Yeah,
Start
I knew.
early.
I knew from an early age why a young child's dream is to work in a factory is beyond me, but it is a true story. Um, so I worked for, I was a quality engineer. I've been a quality manager. I've been an operations manager too, at a number of different facilities and different platforms of food products. Never have worked at a Crayola factory though, but
Not yet.
and not yeah, yeah. And then, I've been in a couple corporate functions where I've been a project manager and I've been a customer quality manager. And so I've kind of gotten a different side of the business. And right now, I'm what's called an organizational effectiveness leader. And so typically my role lies within HR function because it's primarily focused on what's called an organizational performance model.
Mm.
And what you do is you look at the 6 elements or 6 Galbraith star elements of organizational design, and you kind of work through and lead the changes in regard to updating your organization to either get different results or different culture, or maybe you've been triggered by more volume or less volume, or a new competitor or something like that. Either way, like the current way that you're working doesn't work for you,
Mm.
and so you have to change it. So my organization, I work in global quality and regulatory for McCormick. My organization has grown exponentially, and we've also grown through acquisition, and we're moving into a global model. And so there's lots of changes to happen.
Mm.
And rather than my role be in HR, we wanted it in my function, because not only can I help, I know my function, I know quality and regulatory, I know manufacturing, but also I lead training and development, technical training and development for my function. So when we think about, the competencies or the skills or the personnel or the communities of practice we might need, those are all things that I lead in addition to
Mm.
engagement for my function. So I'm super excited to be given the opportunity. And I did something I've never done in my career, which was create a role for
Ah,
myself.
and
Yes.
I was so curious because
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever seen organizational effectiveness leader for
Right.
food safety and quality.
You're
So,
right. Yeah,
ah,
I created it, and I had a manager at the time who, was really supportive of it and said, I see the value in this, and, and kind of worked me into that role. So it was great. And, a lot of my background also, I did a lot of recruiting and developing of early career talent, when I was a quality manager or an operations manager. And so I have a real passion for this kind of thing. So it was great, and that just goes to show you the support of a great manager,
mm,
and, the confidence to say, I've got this experience. I think I can do more with this. And, and for a strategic leader to say, hey, I think there's a gap that we can kind of cover here. So it ended up, yeah, and it's been very successful thus far, and I'm really excited for this work. So
that's awesome. So it
yeah.
makes me wonder, what did you see
Hmm.
that led you to go, we really need this role and we really need to support leaders kind of in this from this new perspective or new
Hmm.
way?
You know, uh, so a couple things that I think that we saw is, we weren't meeting some of our results,
Mm.
for one thing, and then we also saw that we had some opportunities to standardize roles, and to really build roles and to really set the expectations and standards for decision making, and like responsibilities.
Mm.
There was a lot of, the reason we weren't meeting some of our results is because sometimes, we were taking too long to make a decision, or there were too many decision makers. And so that was a really cool opportunity to say, hey, let's develop specific roles. They'll have specific responsibilities, and then we'll develop a team. And then the manager would be responsible to say, are we making decisions at the right level? Are we making decisions with speed? Have we reduced redundancy? And so that was, that's really what it came from. And some of that was, um, and that was really me and the leader of the department trying to figure out what this might look like. So, and it
Wow.
took a whole team. At least a year to figure this out, and luckily for my job security, org design is never really finished, and so so there's always lots of opportunity to to think about how you might organize differently.
Yeah. No, but I love that because one of the things that I see that creates some pain points is right
Hmm.
the lack of clarity in roles
Yeah.
and decision
Yep.
making and responsibilities.
Right.
But I don't know if you've seen this, but sometimes it's like, well, we're too busy to stop and actually navigate kind of the bigger picture and
Right.
holistically how it works.
Yep.
Which is this one time, like, okay, on this project, you're the one doing this.
Right.
Are those some of the things that you've seen happen before?
Yeah, we've seen that. We've tried to do a job here at McCormick where we really use information either from FSPCA or hazard analysis to identify what are the types of hazards that we're going to come up against, And then when they reach a certain level of severity or probability or something, who should make that decision? So we tried to put some metrics on it, and it's worked pretty well for us. And so, and I'm not saying every situation is black and white, obviously, but it has helped us really kind of hone in on who are the people that we need, what are the skills that we need, and who the decision makers are on, some very specific things that are going to happen to us, like you said, kind of all the time,
Yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah, rather than just on projects. So,
that's awesome. So,
yeah.
as you've been in this role, what's
Mhm.
even been the most rewarding part so far?
Ooh.
That you made this new role.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I started in the Americas region, and I just became global. Gosh, a handful of months ago. Um, what's been the most rewarding thus far, I think, is just identifying best practices globally.
Hmm.
So, I worked for a globe. I worked in my time here at McCormick, I've worked globally a couple times with customers and stuff, but this has been a really cool opportunity to see how people work globally. Understand how our values or our mission and vision translate globally or how they're
Yeah.
cascaded. Also some decision making, some eye-opening things in terms of decision making based on the culture or the norms. And so that's been really cool for me. And the most rewarding, I think, is just taking, I don't ever want to be uh, a person that slows down decisions or prevents them from happening because they're not global or something. So I'm trying to figure out how I can take the best of everything and share it. That's really what I'm trying to get to. If it works for somebody, great, meet them where they are. And if somebody's already been doing a pilot, for a handful of years, that's even better. like that's great. And so my job is really to try to figure out what those best ways of working are and share those across.
That's awesome. So
Hmm.
I'm sensing, am I on track here to sense that I'm sensing that you are curious, like you lead with curiosity, like,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
how could this work?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And and that's one thing I'll say about, yeah, managing a team or an organization. If you or someone in your organization is questioning, like not so much questioning, but just always thinking about why things work the way they work, or gosh, how did this come to be? That's usually a tell that they're going to be a natural leader of people,
Mm.
or they're going to be, somebody that is going to be able to take a team to think differently, or approach a problem from a different mindset, or frame it up differently. And so, yeah, I'm always looking for that. Probably to the chagrin of other folks who are like, we like the way we do it. I don't want to hear there might be a better way.
Annie, the
Um,
change master over there, right?
yeah, yes. Yeah, yeah, that's always something you have to work on in terms of, well, I think in our function in general, in quality and regulatory, we are an influence function in lots of ways.
Mm.
And so, we know that influence isn't just showing someone the data, it's also creating relationships, it's pairing those two things, it's, using their language, it's, potentially, spending time in these other functions to understand what they value. And so there's a lot that goes into it. And it's the same stuff that goes into managing change too. It's understanding where people are and helping them through it.
Yeah, it's amazing when you take a step back and look at all these parts. I mean, I don't want to say it's so complex, but there are these layers of complexity or
Yeah.
factors that probably are even more of in consideration today than they were 10 or 20 years ago
Hmm.
to be successful when it comes to being a technical leader. So I
Yes.
love being able to have conversations around this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So as we're talking, I noticed that we've got some folks with us. So hello, thanks, Austin. It's good to see you. And Robert, thanks for calling in from Arkansas. And I am a little jealous of 55, but
Yeah.
it's coming. And Josabeth, it's nice to have you join us all the way from Mexico.
Yeah.
And Katrina, it's good to see
Hi,
you.
Katrina.
If you were with us before, Katrina was on 2 episodes ago.
Hmm.
So make sure you go back to our YouTube channel and check that out as well. So
Yeah.
it was awesome talking about onboarding. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, so Annie, I'm curious because it seems like with this role that you're kind of trailblazing in the industry to say, hey, here's a gap or a spot where we can create some new awareness so that we can grow stronger as technical leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me wonder, do you see other things that the food industry and food safety in particular is really being invited to explore differently when it comes to developing leaders?
Yeah, I've seen a couple things either through Gartner or some other organizations where companies are really looking at what are the specific skills and competencies for technical employees, and what are those skills? Because I think a lot of companies will have kind of their broad competencies in terms of the way you treat people and the way you come to work and things like that. But
Mhm.
these are specific competencies where whether they're decision making or their food vulnerability or their food science and technology or whatever, they're identifying not only the competencies and skills for a technical organization, but they're also building all their recruiting around that. They're
Oh,
built, because they're looking across their sites or their organization and saying, gosh, I'm really strong in food microbiology, but I don't have a lot within food quality systems management or quality management systems. Or they're trying to look to see what are the specific competencies for a whole quality and food safety organization, and then where do they have gaps? So that's how they recruit. The other thing that I'm seeing is
mm,
based on those competencies, developing training and development with varying levels. And so, when you look at, we'll take quality management systems. If you have a new employee coming in, they might just need to have awareness about quality management systems. Maybe they're a part of a system or a program. But then if you grow in the organization and the higher up you get, you'll see kind of like senior quality systems managers,
mm,
and so they would have a very different level of competency, of behavior in that competency. They're strategizing, they're leading, they're deploying globally, like those types of things. And so you're able to kind of not only deliver training to the people that need it, that is most impacted by it, but you're also able to show people a career path. That is
mm,
something that I'm seeing a lot of is in terms of technical competency and development, is that visibility and transparency of a career path. And I'm also seeing where companies are having more roles that are individual contributor rising grades and
mm.
also manager of people rising grades. A lot of times I think, we've heard, obviously I know at the very top you're going to end up managing people. But, for those roles kind of in the middle and stuff, there's a lot of space there. And I think companies are now starting to explore that a little bit more because they know they know a lot of times those skill sets are not the same, right? So, having that technical competency and leadership doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a great manager of people and vice versa. And so, protecting both those types of roles and then having it transparent for people when they go to develop their skill set and have that transparency of their career path. I'm seeing a lot of that. Yeah. Do you have a question? Sorry.
Now I'm like, there's a lot in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. What I really like is that this recognition that food safety and quality, before it used to be kind of like, well, we have one person or maybe a couple people and they do all of it.
Oh, yeah.
And
Right.
so,
Yeah, and they have to be
when
an
you talk
expert
about
in
this,
sanitation and pest control and micro and SPC and managing people
and
and,
intentional
you know,
adulteration and food
right. Yeah,
defense, and like there's so
that's
many different.
impossible. Yes,
Yes.
yes,
So to
yes.
think that one person can do
Yeah,
all of it or even
yeah,
be an expert to lead your facility in all of it,
yeah.
that's a big, those
Big
are big
ask.
shoes. That's a big ask,
Mm,
big shoes to fill. That's for
right,
sure.
right. Yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm also seeing, and my company's done a little bit of this too, is where you'll have metrics for managers of people. And so, not only do you have metrics for individual contributors, such as, cost savings or, project completion, whatever that looks like, but also metrics for managers of people, about either retention or attracting talent
Mm.
or, promoting talent, and so, or just ensuring that they're having one-on-one meetings with their employees, or a development plan for their employees. So I'm really liking that too, because I think a lot of the metrics in the past were either so vague and so shared that people didn't really understand what their responsibility was in there, or they were so project based and so, you know, metric, like manufacturing metric based, that it was hard for people to understand like what their role is in this. And so, I think I'm seeing even better and better ways in which, of course you measure what you value. And so, I'm
Mhm.
liking that I'm seeing not only you've got those harder metrics, but then you've also got the ones about, personnel engagement.
Yeah, and I see Austin put in soft skill development.
Yeah.
And right, we all know that technical
Yeah.
skills alone are not enough if you are
Oh,
going to be
right.
leading in a technical field.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and so how do we think outside of that? And I know in our prep meeting, right, we always have a prep
Yeah.
meeting. It was really interesting when we talked. But we do, right? We want to
No
make sure
prep.
things are
Yeah.
working.
We're meeting for the first time right
This
now.
is it. Like this, all off the cuff, folks. And it is for the most part. We haven't had
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
But I remember, and what really stayed with me from when we talked about it was just this transition, or this old belief that there used to be, right? That if I was a technical leader and I got promoted, it meant that
Yeah.
like now I was expected to maybe write the report better, or do
Yes.
better statistical analysis, or
Right. Do
it
more better. Yeah.
do more better, like all within the
Yeah.
technical field. And
Right.
I like how you kind of were like, no, not
No.
necessarily.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it is interesting. And I don't, uh, it's funny. I did that very thing when I became a manager of people, right? Because you're like, I'm going to prove to the company that I deserve this promotion by being the best individual contributor I could be. And that's absolutely not what they needed.
That's what we
Yeah.
knew back then, right?
Yeah, that was what I thought that meant, and
Mhm.
I thought that, and that is detrimental to your employees. I have since apologized to my early employees many times for this, because, not only does it not develop them, it undermines them, and the company is not paying you to do someone else's job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so for you to get to a different level where you're comfortable delegating and holding other people accountable, that not only frees you up to do your job, it frees them up to do their job. I mean, not only are you not you're able to do two jobs, but because you're managing others, you can actually manage that whole team. You're not so focused on that, one employee
Okay.
and showing them how you do it best, which may not be the best way, by the way.
True.
Yeah. And maybe the way you got really comfortable with. Um,
Well,
yeah.
even within that, what do you think is the biggest shift someone needs to make to
Mhm.
recognize my role, or at least the majority of it, is how do I help take care of these people? How do I
Yeah.
develop them? How do I clear barriers? What is what is needed to go from I'm managing, I need to write better programs, I need to deploy better programs, I
Mhm.
need to do these two. I
Yeah.
just need to help enable and empower a team to do it.
That's exactly right. I think when you look at, and this was helpful for me, when I first became a manager, I was trying to figure out how to write my goals. And my boss was like, well, just write down all your employees' goals, and those are your goals. And I was like, oh my God, this seems totally unattainable. But I understood why he said that now. He was a very hands-off person. And I understood why he said that now is because I needed to shift from what my value was to the organization to what my team's value was to the organization. So all the things that they were responsible for, I was going to have to figure out how to help them to do those things, because that's what the company hired them for. That was their value to the company. And if was responsible for all of that, and if one of those things gets screwed up in there, it's really on me as a manager of that team. And that, and it's, I don't, and that wasn't to mean and when you look at all the things I was responsible for, there would be no way that I could supervise everyone's working or anything like that. I had to very strategically work with my peers and the people above me to clear all those barriers, like you said, to clear out, hey, my employee is working on this thing with your employee. Are you and I aligned so that they can be successful? This is the value, this is this project's value. How do we make it happen for them? That mindset and shifting to working for your employees was huge. Yeah, it was huge. And I don't know that I realized how much I was not going to be working
Mm.
at anything I was good at. like, I really, there was not a whole, I mean, maybe in terms of like, having a technical understanding of a project or something like that. But no, it was really your time is going to be spent with your employees, either one-on-one with them, or you're going to be spending it with your peers or people, above you, and, building this coalition of sponsors for, for project success. But it, it was working not through your employees, not with your employees, but for your employees, I think was a big adjustment. And I can see when people, and I'm not saying when you get, new employees, you can't tell them anything and you got to walk away. You have to kind of look at where they are in their career and how much they know. And sometimes you're going to need more transition time than others, but really focused on helping them to develop, them to manage their work, and then you to help them on those higher things that you have to recognize you have gravity they don't have, and so when they come to you and they've tried to figure something out, you let them figure it out, for one thing, because they have to grow and develop. But if they've really tried and they need you to use your, gravity or muscle, that's the role you have to play.
Ah, yeah. Wow. What a
Yeah.
shift when you say everything I knew before, I had to kind of like let go of everything I was good at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just so curious, like, right, like how that comes to be. Because to me, that sounds like that would be kind of like, I don't want to say shaky ground, but that's kind of an unknown. Like, what does this new part look like if I'm kind of
Hmm.
letting go of all these things that I've known for so long?
Yeah. I think it's just a focus of, how did you get good at the thing that you were good at?
Mm,
That's what I looked at it as. Like, I got good at the thing I did because I spent time learning from others. Well, you could do that as a manager. I had some other manager who'd managed other people. I'd talk to them like, hey, I feel like I'm screwing this up, or I feel like this is the right approach. Can you help me? That's how you got good at your old job. You just treat it like a new project,
mm,
or a new initiative where you're like, I have to get good. I took a lot of courses, I read a lot of books. And I will say, that's the other piece about, the difference between the individual contributor and the manager. When you're an individual contributor, you're seeking feedback, and you'll get it, maybe during your performance review, or maybe if you do something really good or not so good, you'll get that direct feedback from your manager if they give it to you. But when you're a manager, you have to actively listen for indirect feedback, either from your peers, people above you, your employees. And so you kind of treat that as, this is the thing I'm responsible for, is listening for this and making sure I'm managing all these pieces that are coming to me. And that was very similar to being an engineer. I thought, knowing your equipment, or knowing what the risks are. It's kind of that same thing. Like, okay, how do I prioritize this, and kind of doing that in terms of managing an organization.
that's a fantastic analogy because, right, like with equipment, you don't have to wait till it breaks. Like
Right.
you have this sense of like, oh, it
Mhm.
just sounded a little funny, or did you catch that? Did you see it do
Right.
this?
Or it's getting out of control, or
Mm,
yeah, or I'm seeing processes not being followed. Maybe it's too complicated. Maybe like things like that. And I think if you look at your organization like that, and I'm not saying people are
mm.
machines by any
No.
stretch of the imagination, but that's how kind of I did it. Like, oh, I'm going to treat this like I did when I became a good engineer. Is
Mhm.
like, I'm going to use those same skills because I know I have those skills. I might not have the behaviors down right, or how to do it yet, but it's using those same skills.
Which makes a lot of sense because
Mhm.
it's often in those little things. And I don't have it here in front of me, but I'm reading the Culture Code right now. And it's this
Mhm.
fantastic book that talks about a lot of the relationships and culture are really about the small things that you sense or do. It's not about the
Yep.
big things like the declarations. It's these little things that let you know that you're all in
Mhm.
tune with each other and aligned.
Mhm.
So I think that analogy that you used with equipment, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of is the same thing. You're in tune with it. You're aligned. You
Mhm.
know if something's not quite right.
Yep.
And how do
Yep.
you keep that awareness then when you move into a leadership role,
Mhm.
sensing for people and systems
Mhm.
and processes?
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yes. So I'm going to jump over because Josabeth has presented a question to us that I think
Ooh.
would be awesome to look at. So
Okay.
Um, she said, most of the job opportunities I see nowadays require experience in managing people directly. And we know, right? Sometimes in a lot of food safety roles, you don't actually manage people directly because it is
I
so
know.
influential.
I know.
So the question is how do I get the chance to have, to kind of show that or address that with recruiters? Because,
Mhm.
in developing those skills for management roles. What do you
Yeah, that's a great question. And I often, so I've been a part of recruiting for a long time for both my current and previous company, and I'm always challenged by this because some people are like they have to have managed people before they can
Mm,
do this role. I'm like, do they? I don't. I feel like if you can talk to a leadership role where you're leading either peers or people, on a team, or even students, or
mm,
anything that you've led, and you can show that you've used the leadership skills and competencies, with those teams, I think that's great.
mm,
And I've seen people do that. I mean, yeah, we've had people, I think you could pull, I think we don't realize the grit and the experiences that we have
mm,
that really feed into managing a team. And so if you could talk about, leading a truly diverse work team. So if you're leading your food safety team, we know it has to be diverse.
mm,
There's probably people who have no background in food safety. You could talk about how you train them, how you met your goals, how you implemented maybe some changes or preventive measures, um, and you are responsible for that program, and that it's audited. So you've got proof that
mm,
that it's either working or not working, depending. But yeah, showing that you're leading a truly diverse team, showing that maybe it's if you're at a manufacturing plant, you're leading like a continuous improvement team. I found a lot of value in that. Like once people got that kind of role, they kind of knew whether or not they'd want to manage people,
mm.
because it's tricky. You've got shifts involved. You've got lots of people, varying levels of interest and engagement. um, and So you got the whole bag of challenges. And so I think if you could talk about those same skills for those teams that you might not have um, that you're not directly overseeing, I think that goes a long way.
Mm,
The other one I would say, I don't know if there's an opportunity at your companies, but I've had the opportunity here at McCormick and even at General Mills a little bit to lead in women in manufacturing or
mm,
women's network, or maybe even like another employee resource group. Here at McCormick, we have about 8 different ones. And so, if you're leading a group like that too, it's great. You can still have bylaws. You can still, you can create what your strategy is for the company, and so you can gain those same skills in leading something like that too.
And I think you've just shown us, right, just how in food safety, I'm always saying our tentacles go everywhere.
Oh
And so
yeah.
when we talk about that influencing, I think it's also an opportunity because people are still getting used to or trying to understand what do we all do and what does it look like.
Hmm.
So maybe even a spot with helping a recruiter better understand that in food safety, this influential leadership is so present.
Yes.
that may help them understand that honestly, I think it's almost harder than
Harder. I
normal.
was gonna say, I think I've been an operations manager, and I felt like being a quality manager in the wrong kind of environment is actually much harder.
Well,
Mhm.
influencing, and not that,
Yeah.
direct reporting means like I can
Mhm.
just, give
Right. Right.
demands. It doesn't
Right.
work that way.
Right.
Granted, there's that sense is there a little bit more like, oh, it came directly from my leader.
Yes.
So I think being in an influential leader
Mhm.
position is like just helping people understand that what that all means and how that really reflects into
Yeah.
being a direct someone who has direct reports and how wow I can actually help influence them more than just like the old command control type style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would try to pull from wherever you possibly can and just keep it, look at I don't the skills and competencies for managing people and pull
Yeah.
those out and use those wherever you can.
So, and even in this transition, one of the things that I experienced and that I see others is like, as we move into leadership, we kind of face this conundrum of like, how do I how do I stay in touch with technical things that I need to know about, but yet I
Mhm.
know I need to put all this energy into really being the leader I need to be.
Mhm.
How do you see that people balancing that or maybe even looking at that to say where do I need to spend my energy to best lead my team and how much technical do I need to like stay connected to so that I'm effective as a leader?
Yeah. Yeah, I have experience with this too because when I was in quality, I was pretty technical, and I was able to be I kind of transitioned. And then when I got into operations, I wasn't as technical. So my employees like way lapped me in terms of their technical ability. And I think that was challenging for them sometimes. They're just like, "Do you even know what I'm saying?" I'm like, "I'm tracking, for the most part,
I like that I'm tracking.
Like, I'm tracking. What do you need me to do? Just tell me exactly what you need me to do." And so that's kind of what my approach was. I don't know if it was good, but it was, yeah, I when I think about any type of onboarding, whether it be technical or managing people, I think you kind of need to start at the top. And
Mm,
so, like, what's important to the organization? What do they
mhm,
measure? What do they value? Where are their pain points? I think if you start there, it kind of helps you prioritize. Because I've been in situations where the quality team was really strong, but we weren't getting good results. And so that was
mm,
just a matter of direction. They didn't need technical because they had a strong team that was really technical. They just needed direction and alignment. Whereas like I've also worked with a team that wasn't technical as much. And so it's then you have to figure out like, okay, well, if this is what we value and these are the gaps, I could focus being, maybe learning some technical, making sure my employees understand the technical side of things by offering training because they're at a certain stage in their career or whatever that looks like. And that way you can kind of understand how to focus. And
mm,
so I always try to look at, and anytime, I'm working with a team or I always start at the top so that they can kind of see the big picture. What do we need to be doing? And then they could kind of map their organizations or their skills to what the company is doing. You can kind of see where that piece to solve is, and then it helps you understand
mm.
if you really need to be as technical or if you need to be more of a manager of people. So yeah, so I've had both experiences. One was a little clearer to me. The other one I was a little challenged with, but um, eventually you get the time to figure out, some of those technical aspects. And what a better way to build your technical skills than to ask your employees to show off and tell you what they know.
Oh,
Yeah. And so,
yeah.
that's always a tricky thing. You don't want them to think you're a total idiot by saying like, what all do you know? Tell me all that you know. Cause they'll be like, I should have your role. But you do want to, but I think there
Until
is,
you get in it, and then you're like, "Oh, I guess I don't need to know all that." Right? No, anyway,
right,
whole
right,
other thing.
right, right,
Whole
right.
other show.
Whole other show, yeah. But at least you could say, "Hey, what are the" you know, "talk to me about this thing that you're working on," or whatever
Mhm.
that looks like, so you can show that interest and engagement. I mean, that I think goes a long way just for employees feeling valued.
And I love this the aspect that you bring in about, when we think about we're here for our team, right? This is
Mhm.
part of that servant leadership. But
Mhm.
also, sometimes, and I've done this where I'm like, I'm so focused on this role and what I'm doing. Sorry, ego, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to make that thing work better for me.
Right.
Um, but also the bigger picture, right? What is it my organization needs from me? What does it need
Yes.
from my team? Because
Yes.
right, we're supposed to be the link or help make this
Mhm.
link. And so I think
Mhm.
when you talked about how to help our team even kind of realize how things link together by sharing
Mhm.
these bigger picture, that's really the important part.
Mhm.
Especially, we have talked a little bit about food safety culture because we all want I always call it the dreamy food safety culture.
Yeah.
And we're on this quest to say, how do we get there? What is it like? What's the right one for us?
Right.
When you think about as food safety or technical leaders, what are some of the things that we really need to maybe hang on to help drive that culture where we want it to be? But at the same token, we can't always just add more and more. So there's got to be some things we need to release.
Yeah.
What do you think fall into those buckets?
Yeah. Um, I think um, for me, there's a couple pieces with like food safety and quality culture. Is one, as a quality and food safety professional, you shouldn't be doing it alone. You shouldn't be leading it alone. It should not be yours and yours to manage. I think that's one, impossible, and two, doesn't send the right message, anyways, to your organization. I feel like with food safety culture, in your role as a manager of people, it's going to be up to you to develop that culture at the highest level,
Mm,
right? And so influencing those decisions or those values or those metrics or whatever that looks like, so that no matter who people hear from, they're going to hear the same message. They're going to know, God, food safety and
mhm,
quality is important. This is why I make this decision. This is why we have this process. So I think that's so important, aligned, at the top, and that's your role as a manager of people, is to align folks at the top. And then I see this, and I can't stress this enough, is keep it really simple. And I'm not talking about like keep a slogan simple. That's great too. Everybody's got a compelling business need, and they're having these slogans like one or two words. That's awesome because people can get around that. But what I mean is keep your processes really simple.
mhm.
And so I don't. I'm probably not going to pronounce this correctly, but like poke joke,
Oh,
poke
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 yolk.
poke yoke. Yeah.
That's what
Uh,
I call it. Yeah.
I don't know. So, where you make a system where it only works one way, right?
Mhm,
And so it is so much easier to talk about food safety and quality culture when there's literally no other way to do it. The message is easier, it's easier to follow. You can, because you're doing things right every time, you can actually have deeper conversations about food safety and quality. You can have deeper conversations or deeper learning. Because if people are doing too many things, the message gets muddled, that, you care about culture, but then, like you said, like you have to do all these other things too. It ends
mhm,
up being extra, and it shouldn't be extra. It should just be the way you work. Um, and so, I've had the pleasure of working in what I felt like was a true food safety culture, at one of my manufacturing facilities, and it was fantastic. People, we reduced the amount of defects that we had. We also reduced the amount of checks. We welded things in place. We deleted obsolescence. We had hard conversations, with the business to say, we don't want to make this product anymore because every time we make it, it's too, we have challenges.
mm,
And so we recognize, like, what are some things that we could do to simplify the operation for our employees? And then it really brought everybody to a different level of talking about culture. And so I think it's the thing about is, if you make it too complicated, it's going to be really hard for even your own employees to follow. And so, yeah, if you can make
and
it simple.
yeah, and if it's too hard, that's when the workarounds come in,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Ugh, and
Yeah.
I mean, I do that when I'm making a new recipe. I'm like, I don't have that tool, or I don't know how to do that. I'll
Yeah.
try it this way.
Right. Yeah. And that way is an option for you. Yeah.
Maybe,
Right.
but really,
Yeah.
what it sounds like too is what you talked about even earlier with that sensing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really looking at how do we be in tune with those things. Like you said, a product that every time we run it, it just creates some challenges for us.
Yeah.
So being able to sense that to be able to have the next conversation,
Mm-hmm.
um, and even the pokey yoke, how yeah, right, whatever
Yeah.
term people use for it, but like it's the whole right, like how do I make it so we can't do it wrong? I
Right.
think of like I'm not sure IKEA is the one, but
Right.
where when you put something together and you're like,
Yeah.
this won't fit in here.
Right.
I can't put it
Yeah.
together wrong.
Right.
So
Right. Or a USB or whatever that looks like. Yeah.
right. There's
Hmm. I would say a floppy disk, but that ages me
and yeah. Oh,
significantly.
again, a whole other show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so Annie, I'm curious if there, so as I'm trying to, it's been 45 minutes. Can you believe it?
I
Um,
cannot actually.
so I think about for our audience and when they're going, okay, what would be the 2 or 3 things, pieces of advice
Mhm.
that would be helpful for someone who's going, I'm looking to move from individual contributor to manager.
Mhm.
What will help them through that transition and help kind of lay the path for success for them?
Um, a couple things is so helping yourself through that transition. If you're looking to shift or if you just started shifting, is I think don't underestimate the amount of communication you're going to have to
Mhm.
do. You so in my change, I'm a certified change manager, and so it's in some of our coursework. They talk about the role of the manager of people. They actually have the hardest role. They have to get on board with changes or communication, and then they have to communicate that to their employees. That's a tough position for them. Sometimes it's bad information, it's new information, it's sometimes information that they've heard a million times that their employees haven't heard it enough. And so I can't stress enough how much you have to talk to your employees and to your peers and folks above, folks at higher levels than you. You're gonna and list and not only talking but active
Mhm.
listening. And if you're thinking about this transition, you have to know that you're going to get a lot of feedback. A lot. It's going to be behind your back.
Mm.
It's going to be,
Not always
through.
direct routes.
Yeah, it's not always a direct route. And sometimes it's misunderstood or misaligned or
Mm.
true. All those things can happen. And so you have to address them because if you don't, you have decreased the strategic value of your organization.
Mm.
Like, just like that. And so companies spend so much time and money, especially now, like recruiting and retaining talent. It's on you to kind of keep it. Of course, there's other things that you have to work through if somebody's not the right fit and you're having to
Mhm.
work with them. There's always that too. Um, but yeah, it's that communication, that active listening, and that acting on that listening. So if
Mm.
you're getting feedback or if people are telling you one thing, you have to act on it either way, whatever it looks like. And it's just such a difficult place to be sometimes. I don't mean to laugh about it, but it's not an easy place. And there's a lot of joy in it too, right? So there's a great opportunity to talk about. I shouldn't talk about all the bad things and stressful things. I'm getting triggered, but I but but there's also like a ton of joy where you're like, oh my god, my employee is like a total rock star, and I get to talk about them to people higher up, or somebody higher up recognize them, and I get to share that with, like, there's so much joy in promoting people and giving people new opportunities and watching them shine and training and stuff like that. But there's also the piece of just constant communication, and your words really matter. There's going to
Mm.
be a gravity to some flippant thing you said, and your 4 employees heard it and they told their groups and whatever. And so there's always that too, is just understanding that gravity. So but yeah, I would say focus really on your team and your team's strategic value. um, Communicate a lot, even if, yeah, tough, good, same,
All the time.
all the time.
Well, it's funny. I do. I always tell people communicate early and often.
Oh yeah, We had one like bad news doesn't age well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true,
It
right?
doesn't.
No,
Yeah.
I think those are great pieces of advice with the communicating. And I think, at least
Mhm.
for me, that was a big learning part. Because, right, I just thought, well,
Yes.
we're all just going to do our thing, right? We'll talk periodically. But as a leader, it wasn't until I recognized, I needed to shift, like you said, I need to get rid of all the stuff that I was
Yep.
good at.
Yep.
And then when I focused there, that's when it opened up. That's when
Yeah.
I realized, oh, it's so different.
Hmm.
And prepare for that. But it is a
Yep.
lot of communication
Hmm.
and listening for the things that aren't always being said.
Yep.
Um, I think those are wonderful pieces of advice because,
Yeah.
I mean, really, when we transition, I brought up my ego before. So really, it's for me, it was like, how do I put that ego on the sideline? Because
Yeah.
I'm not the subject matter expert anymore. I
Right.
need to help clear the path for all of these people that are subject matter experts in leading teams because my work is now this team.
Yes. Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, any last thoughts before I want to make sure we have time for our speed round questions.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions in here? You
I
see
haven't seen
something?
any more come
Okay.
through, but if for our audience, if you have any, certainly drop them in because we have a few more minutes and we're going to work on our speed round questions and then we'll certainly come back and check the questions again. So, all right, Annie, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so speed round questions. Who's the funniest person you know?
I think it's my husband. Yeah. Yeah, he's got a quick wit, very
Ah,
quick wit, and he has great analogies. Yeah.
and you know what? Humor is so important. That's why we like asking this question.
Yeah, I know. And it goes a long way, especially when when we don't agree on something. It really gets him out of some trouble. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Where would you love to go on vacation?
Well, I love hiking, and I love good weather. And I love good views. So I have a number of places on my list, but I'd be happy if somebody gives a suggestion to the chat. My husband and I are looking to go somewhere in September. And last year we went to Colorado. We did a big road trip through a number of really cool mountain towns and did a lot of great hiking. And so I'm looking for something similar to that. So, yes, I'm open to suggestions.
Oh, yeah. And since we have people joining us from everywhere, like if you're like, here's someplace you've got to go,
Yeah,
once again, drop it
tell
in the
me.
comment. We'll make sure we get that over to Annie or
Okay.
message Annie with it. So
That's right. Yeah. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
Okay, Annie, if you could be a character from a movie, and we can add in book or, TV series or something, which
Oh,
one would you choose?
yeah. Austin, that's funny. I worked in the Grand Teton National Park. You wrote Grand Tetons, and I was thinking about maybe going back there. I used to work there at a summer in college. I worked at Dornan's at a cafe. So, and I loved it, loved it, loved it. So it's a great suggestion. Okay, so if I could be a character from a movie or a book, I don't know. I think I, I don't know. The Big Lebowski is my favorite movie. It is probably not appropriate for work to talk about it, but um, I think it's a great movie, and I think Maud Lebowski is a great character. She has just this, focus on her artwork, and she's very driven, and she knows who she is,
Hmm.
and her accent. Um, is beyond any that you've ever heard. So she's worldly. I just think she's fascinating, and I don't think I'm that fascinating, but I would love to be someday.
I bet you are.
Yeah, right.
And I'm going to put that on.
I
I
just
haven't
told
seen
this
that.
whole group all my failures. There's nothing.
And look, they're still here with us.
They're
So
still
see,
here. That's
all
right.
good.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so Annie, following that up,
Hmm.
because you talk about, oh, my failures, but what would be your superpower? What would people say is your superpower?
Um, actually talking about my failures, I think is a superpower. I think it's a way. So my my friend Leah Murphy has this is a career coach, and she, has this thing about like if you're authentic, your tribe will find you. And
Mm.
so I feel like my authenticity actually helps me recruit and retain and make connections with people, because maybe they look at me and they're like, oh, if she could do it, I could do it. Or they or it's just
They're
like
like, wow, I want to be
they're
like
like,
Annie.
wow, that
That's
seems
awesome.
easy. Yeah. But I think it's about like, if it's just being open and honest and having, and listening and engaging with people and making those connections. I really enjoy doing that. And I think I'm good at it. Again, not been validated or verified, but I do find a
Sure.
lot of joy in that.
I'll verify it. I think it's
Okay.
so. That's an awesome superpower to have,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When you can show up and be yourself, because that's not always easy.
I
So,
know, I know. But if you can do it authentically, and I think you'll find other people really find comfort in that.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Annie, it has been a delight to have
Oh,
you with us
yeah.
today.
I
I'm,
feel the same.
well, I so appreciate what you've shared. And I know you said all these failures, but there's so
Yeah.
many nuggets in there of like wisdom and insight and things that we can actually take and go, okay, here's something I can do today to make a
Yep.
difference with where I'm at with my team.
Mhm.
And that's what this is all about. Like, how do
Right.
we have this real talk? Because we're only going to get better together. And we
Yep.
know it's taken a whole village.
Yes.
But I think also really understanding that it's our shared responsibility to set each other up for success.
That's right.
And so, that's why we're so glad to be able to focus on this for this past month, and having you and Katrina, and we had Veronica on last week.
Yeah.
And next week, we are going to have an amazing panel of recent grads that are leading the next generation of food safety professionals.
All right.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have them and talk about what this, transition has been like, and
Hmm.
like what can we do better as a profession to help people have the traction to have success.
Right.
And some of the things that they already have that they're like, this really worked well. So
Hmm.
we're going to get that inside scoop on what that's like and all the good details. So,
Yeah. Good.
yes. So if you're catching the replay, we do this every Wednesday at noon Eastern, which is 11 Central. I'm a little bit challenged when it comes to time zoning. Ugh. But it is always at noon Eastern.
Yeah.
And we'll continue having real talk. And we are so, so glad to have you with us today, Annie. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of our audience being here. We appreciate that you join us, and that you put in these little nuggets as well in the comments, and help enrich our conversation.
Yeah. Very good. Thanks for having me, Jill. This is really fun.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a really good time.
Good. All
That was
right.
fun.
Good. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, anytime, really. Yes, this
No
is a
worries.
big
You're on the
honor.
list.
This is a huge honor for me. So I really thank you for this.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day, and we will be back next week. So until then, it's been fun. It's been fun. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.